That's all the damage it did to that keystone. A little dent. All them Bud Lights didn't last. That keystone last. Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're working on this hydraulic control block. This is a hydraulic control block out of a Bobcat 773. Someone saw my video and said, hey, can you help me out with my Bobcat? I have a big hydraulic leak. I said, sure, no problem. Went over to take a look at it, and sure enough, we have a big leak within the hydraulic control block system. Based on the color of the hydraulic fluid that I was seeing coming out, it was clear that there was some contamination going on within the hydraulic system, so I did advise, why don't you flush this system while I rebuild this control block. So I got the customer doing that, and this video is going to be about me resealing this entire hydraulic control block system. I do want to do an overview of you guys to kind of explain what the hell is going on here. There's a lot of connections, a lot of tubing, multiple solenoids. So let's dive into what we got going on here. So this control block is really composed of two primary components. You have your main control block, which is the back portion, which is where the high pressure from the hydraulic pump goes into, and then it pumps it out into like charged pressure. And then you have this, which is your front block. This is really your Bics controller. So when Bobcat went to this like Bics system, you know, a lot of the components get locked out for safety reasons. So this is your Bics hydraulic block, if that makes sense. So I'm going to separate the Bics hydraulic control block from the main hydraulic control block so we can take a look at the two different blocks. So you got about 5 or 6 fasteners, and these are mounted with 13 millimeters. So I'm going to zip these off and then give this a whack with the mallet. Don't mind the turbo heater. I'm freezing my ass off out here, so the heat is appreciated, although I'm sure you guys do not like the noise. Let's see if this wants to come off. Nice. There we go. So you guys get main line hydraulic control pressure, so it's high pressure coming from the hydraulic pump. That comes into this side, the right side of the block, and then it gets diverted over and it gets regulated down to low pressure here as well. So from the high pressure side, you're getting high pressure diverted to your lift or bucket cylinders. And like if you're lifting up, that's going to be high pressure, and that's where you're going to get supply here. If you're lifting down is going to actually come from this side. And the same thing, if you're tilting up is going to come from the high pressure, tilting down is going to come from the low pressure side. So, and there's a lot going on at the same time. You have a bunch of check valves here. You have your actuators. Your actuator spool valves are here. So these valves pull in and out for your lift and tilt function. So depending on what you're doing, like if you're lifting up, this is probably going to pull out, and you're supplying hydraulic pressure to the lift cylinder, same for the tilt cylinder. And depending on the status of your Bics controller, this valve, this whole block may lock you the fuck out. So I laid out all the parts from the replacement seal kit that Bobcat provides. Again, these two kits, which I looked them up, they're called hydraulic seal kits, so they're probably for a common thing, a common repair thing. I would assume it's like the relief valve and maybe the hydraulic control valve, but we'll see. Anyway, these and all of these components came in this master Bobcat kit, so I can leave a link to that in my description as well. We're going to start with this one. Just to knock out some of the components, this is the easier one to do. And I mean, you really just got your two spools, you got a check valve, and your hydraulic lock valve. So let's take this thing off. Get a wrench. One thing I noticed is this thing's been like, must have been torqued or hit with like an impact, because the the threads are a little bent or damaged. Ooh. This is just a plastic cap that holds the solenoid in. This only gets like hand tight. Oh boy. Oh, this thing is way too tight. Not supposed to. Oh my gosh. Must have loosened it with the impact because it came a lot easier. So, ooh yeah, there's rust in here. The O-ring is missing. Oh wait a second, here's the O-ring. Oh no. Yeah. O-ring's here. This thing's rusted shut. This thing's gonna be a motherfucker to take off. But anyway, you got your cap and your O-ring sitting there. I could reuse this, but I'm gonna try to get a new one for the guys. Oof. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this thing is locked on. There we go. Wiggle her free. There we go. Now, we can check this thing. They said this was good, and I wanted to do this before I took this apart, but sometimes it's how videoing goes. This style coil is a good coil. Reads, I think the manual says 9 to 11 ohms, so anywhere between there is a good coil. So we're going to check the 2 points here and just see what our resistance is. Got some crazy wackadoos making some comments on my YouTube saying I curse too much. Alright, look at this. 9.4 ohms, so it's between 9 and 11 ohms is a good coil. This tells me it's good. If I had like no resistance, then I got a direct short somewhere. If I got too much resistance, well, it may trip out the Bics controller. So I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be between 9 and 11 ohms, so this coil is technically still good. So we can try to clean it up and see if see if we could just reuse it. That would be nice. So again, there we go. She's coming. She's she's an impact on these. Setting to my low setting. Oh geez. Look at that. Motherfucker. Nothing ever goes smooth. Nothing ever goes smooth. So now I gotta get a new end cap for this thing too. Motherfucker. Oh man, yeah, the whole thing is split. I didn't notice until I rotated it. I'll show you guys as soon as I get it off. Oh yeah. This coil is like disintegrating, even though it tests good, but see how it's split right there? The whole plastic split. It's just a matter of time before like water gets in further and freezes further, and the coil will fail. So might as well change it proactively while we're this far in. It'll save the guys some time. So this is garbage. So with that removed, now we have access to our hydraulic control valve. It's like the hydraulic solenoid valve. This valve actually shuts off all hydraulic flow to the Bics control, and that's what locks you out. So let's try to take that off. Let's see if this will come off easy. Yes, it did. That's nice. So this is the hydraulic control valve. It actually looks pretty good, but with it out, I'm going to take all these seals off, clean it, and then reseal it. So you don't lose track of everything that you're doing, I'm going to take off one seal at a time and then place them in an order so I don't get too screwed up when I try to reseal this thing. You know, it's in theory, I mean, this is really not that hard. My opinion, the hardest part is losing track of where all the seals go. And this one's interesting because it has, you know, a bushing and then your O-ring and then a bushing O-ring. So it's kind of reversed, but that's how they have it. You know, that's how we're going to put it. And there is some shit and debris here, so it's good that we have this out so we can clean it out while we got it. Okay. So that's how that was oriented, and then you got your final seal O-ring, which was all the way at the top, and that goes up there. So this is my O-ring order. So I'm going to clean this thing and reseal this from the O-rings that I have, and put it back in the same order. So we can see what the right kit is, actually. And this appears to be the right kit. Yeah, this is the right kit. So this is your part number for your hydraulic locking valve, control valve, whatever you want to call it. So that's the part number. And I know that because I'm just looking, the O-rings are the exact same. Okay, let's clean it, and then I'll throw this back together. Like that, it's all cleaned up and resealed. So we can throw out these O-rings and reinstall this perfectly resealed one. I do like to add a little bit of grease to the threads in the O-ring when I throw this back in the block. All right. Nice. I'm going to thread this in by hand. And I know I used an impact to take it off. I am not using an impact to put it back on. I'm just gonna torque this by hand. I am sure there's probably a torque spec, but that's good enough. It pretty much just bottoms out. You don't have to go crazy tight, just bottom it. The O-ring's gonna do most of the sealing, so. All right, so that one's done. Let's go to this guy, which I'm pretty sure is a check valve. Let's see what size that is. It's definitely smaller, 7/8. Let's take this off. Yeah, these are not on tight. I want to put my finger up here. I can't remember. I don't know if this is a spring-loaded or not. It's not. There will be some spring-loaded ones on this one, so all right. This might be the other kit, actually, because there's really not that much to this one. O-ring, and a spacer, so looks like 3. And I'll be damned, I see 3 here. I think this is the right size. No, this is too big. Too big. So we're gonna have to go from our seal kit to see which ones we gotta replace. That's okay. There's some shit on this screen too. So it's good that we're removing these and cleaning them. All right, so exact same process. Removing these O-rings, gonna place them in order. So I put them back in the right order. And we'll clean this and then put the new O-rings on. But this one's resealed and it's ready to get put back in. Same thing, just putting a little bit of grease on the threads in the O-ring here. And we'll zip this one in. And same thing, I am not going to impact it on, do it all by hand. All right, so what I got left are these 2 spool valves, and these spool valves that are on here are going to be nearly identical to the spool valves over here. I am trying to make my videos a little shorter, so I think what I'm going to do is turn the camera off, listen to some music, crank out these 2, because I really want to show you on this big block here how to do them, and they're going to be the exact same. So let me change out these regulator seals. We'll call this one off. I'll get a new coil, and we're going to get started on this one. So I like to work from side to side. So this side's looking at me, so let's take care of this side first. Obviously you have these O-rings here. We're gonna pick these out. That's gonna be easy. We're probably gonna have to clean some of the shit out because these get hard and like to stick. That's why I like to put a little bit of grease and lubricant when I apply them. But then we have these check valves and then a plug, and that's really it for this side. Alright, yes, this is a spring-loaded check valve. There's your plunger. There you go. And so, there you go. So this, this is plunged shut, and then if hydraulic pressure gets applied, it springs closed, so it allows it to not pass through. So that's easy. Looks like all we gotta do is change an O-ring on this one. I don't see any other sealing mechanism, so yeah, this looks easy. So these should be the same. Let's zip these out and prove that they are the same. Ooh, this one came right out. So this one came out. I don't see a check valve on that one. Huh. So this is interesting. Here you go. 1, 2. This one doesn't have a plunger or a spring. Why would this one not have a plunger or a spring? Unless somebody took it apart already. Someone could have taken this apart and then they lost the plunger. Or they don't need a check valve here and they just use this to seal it. I'm going to have to look up a manual to confirm that. Thank God for a good manual, especially one that you can actually read. But here's your hydraulic control valve, C1, C2, C3. Usually that's check valve 1, 2, 3. You go to the identification chart, C1, load check valve location, and that was a check valve. C2, load check valve, that was check valve. C3, plug auxiliary function. That does not need to be a check valve, which is good news that there hasn't been hokey stuff going on. So that makes me feel better. Plug these holes, and now I'm just cleaning all of these sealing surfaces. This thing must have been sitting out in the rain, so there's a lot of rust and shit. You want to clean these sealing surfaces because if you have an imperfection, you're going to lower the life on your O-ring. You may not get a good seal. Who knows? I mean, skid steers are not the easiest to work on. Everything's buried, so take the time, clean it out. Take pride in your work, for Pete's sake, and, you know, do a good job. I see I got 3 of the exact same O-rings here, and these look like the same size for these check valves. I really wish they gave you a better identifier for these, but I'm pretty sure that's it. So I'm going to rip these off, clean them, and then throw these back in. So I got all 3 new O-rings on. I guess you can install these in 2 ways. You can probably lift the block up and have these pre-assembled on there and just slip it in, but there's a recessed part for here, so really should be no big deal to just guide that on. Yeah, this will be easy. So let me add a little bit of lube to the O-ring. Yep, and that went in easy, so yeah, just drop that in. If it's out a little bit, you can guide it with your finger until it seats, and like that seated real easy, so. And same thing, let me lube that up, put that one on, lube this one up, and put this one on. After that, let's take the plug out. It's too loose. 9/16, I don't think it's gonna fit. Oh, 9/16 it is. Tight fit, good. My father liked Ryobi, or Ryobi, or however you want to say it. Mr. Ryobi might not be able to have the ass to rip this out. Let's see what the big dog wants to do. Big dog laughed and said no problem. I don't know what I would do without my battery tools. So I think this is just a plug. And it is. Okay. So, what O-ring would this one be? We're looking good. Adding a little bit of lube to these threads for the O-ring. And let's thread this back on. So for like, 25-year-old O-rings, these feel okay. So, alright. These came out really nice. I mean, they're not stuck or nothing, so whoever installed these before, maybe it's in the factory, did a very good job, but craftsmanship from the 90s is way better than craftsmanship today. Some people say, like, now this grease that I'm using is like oil soluble grease, so it's like, it's not going to clog anything. So don't freak out. All those people that are freaking out. Moving this up. Nice, that fits good. Fits good. Nice. Same thing. That fits good. Okay. Final guy, and we're sitting nice. Take my rag, just wipe off this grease because it'll attract some dirt, but I will re-grease it once I slip the block back on. There you go, she looks good. I'm going to leave these plugs in until it gets time to reassemble this thing. Alright, let's rotate this 90 and do the tough side, which is the spools. So I think I'll just lift this up and then you can watch me build it from above. I think that's easier. Alright, I rotated this thing 90 and now I got to do the spools on this side. Now, the customer told me he tried to take one bolt out and it snapped, which is this one here. A snap bolt is never a good thing. And it looks like the head snapped off. I don't know why. So I'll probably have to use vice grips, but I loosened up the other one just to make sure that this thing would, come out. Now, this thing has a boot. See that boot? We have a new boot for it, which we'll replace, but get this retainer. It's this little spacer that they use. Okay. Got a little O-ring here. Now this one definitely was leaking, and this O-ring is pinched. So you can see how it's like oblong. See that? So when someone installed this at one point, they fucked that up. But this O-ring is really just to protect like rust and dirt and debris from getting in here. So, and look at all the rust and dirt. There's likely debris and shit and probably water that came in here, and is what caused this spool to fail. Bolt is free, and thankfully it unthreaded nicely. I thought I was going to have to put this on the bridge port, but I'm not going to have to. let me remove all these. Let me lay out the parts accordingly, and flip around and do the same thing on the other side. No matter what, you just never have enough space for stuff. But we don't want to rush on this. We want to make sure we're doing this right. So let me get all of these spools out and then go from there. This, I was going to say it feels spring loaded, and it is spring loaded, so we got to be mindful. Again with the O-ring. That one's definitely original. This one's letting me pull it all the way out. Look at this long ass spool. Okay. So I was hoping to see more, I thought I would see more gaskets, but I think what this is, it's a spring-loaded shuttle valve. So when you're directing traffic hydraulically, it shuttles one way so it flows smoothly, and then when you reverse it, it shuttles back and reverses the other way. I think that way the hydraulics don't fight one another, I think. So that's that side. Thing. Yeah, this O-ring, that O-ring's good. That O-ring was installed properly. I could just tell because it was tight against it. This O-ring probably just wasn't installed, hopefully I'm thinking from the factory, and that's what caused all of this crazy failure. Yeah, and like this other oil seal in here is tucked in there tight, which is how it should be. This is the relief. Let's take this one out. Yeah, it's your typical relief valve. Not much there. So we'll put that over here. So I'm laying everything out. I'm laying everything out right here, because what I'm going to do is flip this block 180 and then put the mating side. Put the mating sides here. All right. So same thing. Let's take over the back cover for this one. And so forth. So I took this cap off. Now this has a retainer and a spring. And yeah, I was gonna say, it looks like the whole spool's gonna come, and we're gonna send it. And there's the whole spool assembly. There was a seal here and we lost it, so I gotta go digging for it. But let me find our mate. Alright, so the seal was stuck on the back end here. So this is supposed to ride in here. Interesting. I'm surprised how loose this is. Okay. And same thing on this one. This thing wants to go together, but I think it's two pieces. Okay. Alright, it's two pieces, but it's got a retainer ring. We're not going to fuck with that. Put that there, and then the same thing. Looks like the oil seal, yeah, it got stuck on this side, so it's interesting. I thought it would go together. So these are the spool assemblies, which is probably the hardest part of this thing, but it's really not that difficult. So what I did is I marked my high pressure side, which is here. So my high pressure side, where I know I'm feeding everything back in this side. I'm going to clean these blocks up here in on this side, and then I will reinstall everything with the seals, and then we'll move on to the regulators. Now I got these parts cleaned up. Let me slowly install and replace. So I'm going to do this little shuttle valve first. I replaced, there's only O-rings on the caps, so I cleaned up the caps and installed that. So let's install this back in. Yeah, let's leave that there. It's like installing a cam into a motor. Okay, so let me throw this back in on that side. Nice. And so this one in on this side. Okay, and that's just like a spacer retainer, because this spring is going to ride on it. Yep. Okay. One thing I found interesting is the original hardware had red Loctite on it, and they downgraded to blue Loctite. Could be why the bolt broke in that one. So I replaced the O-rings on these caps. So I should say first I wire brush and clean the shit off, then I replace the O-rings. So let's install the high pressure side first. And we're going to take it slow. I'm just getting this in a little tight. I'm not trying to create too much pressure just yet. And let's install the low pressure side as well. Again, I'm just going hand tight right now. Okay. Turbo heater misfired, so now I'm choking out on diesel. You're going to want to go back and forth, top to bottom. We're going in as even as possible. Okay. So that's snug. We'll go everything snug, and then I'll torque everything by hand. Okay, so these bolts are done. Let's put these aside. Let's go to the next one. So this is, I'm not too sure if this is the lift or the tilt, but in any case, there's three things we have to replace. We have a lip seal here, a lip seal here, and this is really like a rod seal, I should say. So you have a rod seal here, a rod seal here, then you have an O-ring on the other end as well. So, and again, this is a high pressure side, so I'm going to be going in this way. It looks to me that they want you to install the seal afterwards. So we're going to take this one off and the other one off as well. Let me show you how to properly install these. So these are the new rod / lip seals, and I'm hopefully it zooms in, but you can see here you have, this is pretty flush, and you see this one's indented in some way. So you see indented in, and then this one is like flush. So they're designed that way for a reason. So let's take a look at this one. See how this one is installed. Taking this one out, you can see that, hey, we're flush here, but it's indented here. So why am I showing you that? I'm showing you that because the indentation, there's a little pocket here. And as hydraulic oil goes through here, the theory is that this flexes open to help prevent any seals or to help prevent any leaks. And then this is even because this acts as a wiper seal, and you can see that it's kind of tapered down. All right, hopefully I'm showing you that correctly. But if I take this out, see how it's flush? So this is going to wipe the shit off the rod. If I flip this upside down, this one's indented in, so that way it flexes out to pick up any hydraulic oil. Okay? So, we're going to take this one out, and these are going to be oriented opposite of one another. So, let's take this off. So, we're going to do the flush side in like so. Okay, I'm just working this on here. Don't want to force it. Turn it if you have to. Don't want to catch or get caught or rip the seal. Okay, so that one's on there. So I'm going to install this one in the exact opposite orientation once I throw it in the block, so that pretty much this lip here, this positive lip, is going to be on this side here. So this additional lip helps it flex open to create a good seal. I hope I'm explaining that properly. Probably not, but hopefully I am. Just adding additional lube to the seal, and let's throw this guy in there. And we're being careful. There we go. And nice. And she's in. So I'm going to take my seal again. This lip is going to be towards the outside. And I'm putting it on here. Actually, let me pre-lube this. Yeah. There we go. She's pre-lubed. Now I'm just fitting that on. And she fits good. Nice. Okay. This is the cap for this guy. Okay. Okay. And that one's on. Cool. Actually. Okay, we got to do one more here, and then we'll flip the other side around and button that up. And all reality, like, these are going to push in ultimately, but let me give it a little bit of lube. Lube, lube, and more lube. Lots of lube. Okay. we're going to want to clean these boots. So, and we have replacement boots. Again, like, see this O-ring, see how it's oblong? This thing was leaking quite a bit, and seeing how the rust is and everything, this thing was in rough shape. So we're going to take this apart, take this boot out. And this boot helps with dust and stuff, and you know, it's still flexible. It's not, it's hard, it's harder, but it's not, it ain't perfect. But that's okay. Neither am I. You have this end cap, pretty much just sits in there like so. And then those rods will poke out of here. I do need to install the brand new O-rings, because the O-rings are going to go on the outside. They'll ride the outside, and it should clear this pretty much perfectly. It should. So there you go. See how it just rides the outside edge? And now from the factory, now the guys in the factory didn't take their time. This is a bit delicate, and I bet you they pinched it from the factory. Yeah, she sits perfect. You gotta take your time with that. Let's ride. There we go. Get her in there. Let me fasten this first before I get too carried away. Nice, I feel good about that. Alright, so let's push this in all the way. And there's going to be a little lip. Perfect, that. And that is what's going to allow her to travel in and out. So if I grab this, or here we go. So when I pull this out, see how she comes out, then goes in, push, she goes in. Okay. That's how you want to test it. Nice. Okay. No big deal, right? Same thing on this one. There we go. And same thing. Let's test a Rooney. Pull it out. Nice. Push it in. There you go. That's your PMOT. Only thing left to do is install our relief valve, which I already resealed and lubed up. So now that that's in, I'm going to look up what the torque spec is on these Allens and torque it up. Like, I don't know if they're 20 foot-pounds, 50 foot-pounds. They're probably around 20, but I'll look that up, and then I'll put my torque wrench and check all these. If you don't have a torque wrench, you could probably just go snug, call it a day. It's really not that crazy, but we're going to do it to spec. There's a ladybug right here. It went right onto the hydraulic fitting. See that ladybug right there? Must be my lucky day. Alright. Let's see what we got here. This looks like a check valve. And then let's take this guy off. Alright. Looks like we have these. So let's replace these O-rings. Same thing, this is more boring stuff, but you have an O-ring and a spacer. Again, I'm putting them in order when I take them off, and I will put the new ones on. So these don't look too complicated, so again, I'm just taking these off, taking this off, and then I'll throw these back in, and then we'll move to the other side. I think the other spools are a little more complicated. We also have the spool on the Bics controller I forgot we got to do. So, it shouldn't be a big deal, but... So, these spools are going to be the exact same. This one looks like it was already rebuilt, which is interesting. I don't know why you would do one, not all of them. Anyway, get my O-ring set up here, but really not much left to see. I'm going to use the exact same O-rings on the top one here, and then we're done around the block here, and I think we just got the spools left, and that's really it. So I did misspeak. The one spool does not get a spacer O-ring combo. It just gets an O-ring. I don't know why, but that is how it's set up. Let me just make sure this fits in okay. Yeah, she's going to fit in good. Very interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, so just an O-ring on this one. I hope you don't mind. I'm under time constraint. And my GoPro battery was dead. Or I should say my DJI battery was dead. So, I had to redo the spool valves real quick, but those are, I mean, it's easy. You saw me do the hydraulic one. It's the same damn thing. But one thing I did want to tell you to do is you want to check the ohm resistance on these. And these should be around 10 ohms, just like the other one. So when I do an ohm check on here, I get 10.7 ohms. That's good. That's good. I check this one, you get the exact same thing. So make sure you do an ohm check on the coils. If they're bad, obviously you want to replace them. Okay. So now I have my Bics control valve. And again, I'm just taking a little bit of lube, lubing up these O-rings. Just going to help for assembly and so that they don't get stuck in the events, you know, the next guy has to rebuild this thing. I highly doubt this will ever have to be rebuilt, but, you know, sometimes it's nice to think of the guy that's going to be touching this in the future. Okay, so that's there. Yeah, that's looking good. All right, let's put all these fasteners back. So we got a short boy here. Looks like a long one. Long one. It's a long one and a short one. Yeah. All right. Again, I'll have to look up the torque spec on this, but this one's probably going to be heavier. It's probably going to be like 50 foot-pounds or something. Okay, we pretty much have our final spool valves to rebuild. And there she is. There she is. Now that's a real spool valve. So let's take all these O-rings off. See, there's still a lot of hydraulic oil in this thing. And it almost looks like they have an O-ring inside the spacer here. And they do. It's an O-ring inside the spacer. It's kind of wild. Why would they do that? Very wild. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna put a new set of O-rings on this, spacers, and then put this back in. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side, and then pretty much that's it. This one's done. I'm gonna put the new coil on for the hydraulic lock, but pretty much this thing's packaged up and ready to be worked. See ya.
It will smash my lights, but
yes.
it won't smash.
Yes, it can't smash a stoner.
Yeah, I got it.